Look
The
at me
one where you
different.
to capture the zones.
They might call me a sellout or an Uncle Tom, the way they call Bear and Uncle Tom behind his back. Hell, I did it my own self. Once I got older, I realized that Bear and Cat were genuinely cool with each other. Cat felt some kind of camaraderie with Bear. Bear felt it with Cat. At the time, though, I thought Bear was a sellout. All the other damn building
Shadow
tenders,
Blaze, you
too.
be dead.
Couldn't blame them too much, though. They got hella privileges and live good. Still sellouts, though. No, I'm not gonna lie. The more I thought about the privileges I get working for Cat, the more I warmed up to the idea. Well, Cat said, take a day or two to think about it and get back to me. You don't have to take it if you don't want it, but you're my first choice and I'll hold it for you. Yeah,
There's a
thank
guy
you,
behind
Cat,
our base
I said.
over here in.
We shook hands and I
What the
left.
fuck that means?
Went back to my unit, and a few minutes later, the building tenders led us outside. The day was already hot and dusty.
He's going
The
around
occasional
back. I see
breeze
him over
felt like
there.
sandpaper against my skin.
Yo, let's not run.
Old
me
Lord
over.
walked up to his horse, stepped into the stirrup, swung his leg over the horse.
Thank you.
His face was wrinkled and his lips puckered. Oh, looking at him, you'd think he was a hard 60 or 65. He was actually 81. All right, you black man, hold up and get to stepping. Breaking into smaller groups, we climbed into the back of the trucks and set off for our day's assignment along a rutted dirt road. I sat between Johnny Armstrong and Lion Willie. The former was the strongest man in the whole prison and part of the Anderson boxing team. In those days, each prison had its own basketball team, football team, and boxing team, and they'd all travel around to other
Shot here
prisons
at
for
the base
matchups.
if anyone wants it.
Johnny Armstrong was undefeated and had a fearsome reputation. He'd killed 3 men since coming to prison. It was well known that he didn't mind killing more. He never
Already
studied
afraid?
anything and didn't swirl around like a badass. He was kind, quiet, and stood up for smaller inmates who couldn't defend themselves. The former, Lion Willie, was the biggest bullshitter you've ever met. He did nothing but make up stories. That morning, Lion Willie was claiming he saw a meteor or something crash into the field. I'm telling you, man, he said. I saw it come out of the sky last night. It looked like a missile. I think them Russians got us, man. They're just not telling us, so we can still go to work. Johnny Armstrong chuckled. He was rolling a cigarette, the sleeves of his cotton t-shirt rolled up in his massive arms. Hey, funny how only you see this wild shit. How come no one else saw it? I was looking out my window, man. There it was. We got nuked, and we're all gonna grow tentacles if we go in them fields. Everyone laughed. We reached the worksite 10 minutes later. A wall of dead brown brush stretched away from the road. We all jumped off the trucks and lined up. The water boy handed out machetes, and Old Lord looked down at his from his horse like a Confederate statue. You
Hello,
black man,
guy.
don't work too hard.
Why do
You know the squads
I-
keep getting
I
over
just
on
saved your
us.
ass
I'm
from
tired
the
of it.
site.
Yeah, we're gonna take it nice and easy today.
Hey guys, you hear me?
This is where I saw it, Lion Willie whispered into my ear.
Yo,
Just
that's
over there
Cat
in the
above
brush.
you.
Oh man, shut the fuck up.
Thanks,
I
thanks.
snapped.
Thanks, my brother.
There was no talking in the fields. If Old Lord heard Willie with his bullshit, well, Willie was gonna have a bad day. And me, too. When we had our machetes, we waded into the brush.
Shut up.
Johnny Armstrong was the leader and set the pace for everyone else. He was a hard worker and could keep a fast pace, but he went slow for everyone else's sake. I hung back near Old Lord, helped out where needed. Old Lord sat on his horse and spat chewing tobacco onto the ground, and a water boy brought him a cup of ice water. We field hands didn't get ice water. We got it lukewarm. Working out in that sun, ice water would have killed him. Johnny Armstrong chopped him a wide path into the undergrowth and disappeared. Everyone else cleared out of the deadwood on either side. One guy, Ben Jackson, sat on the ground and rolled up his pants cuff. I walked over to him. Hey, you alright? I asked. Oh, twisted my ankle, he said. You best get up and fight through it. If Old Lord sees you sitting
There's a
down.
skewer over here.
And as if on cue, Old Lord called out, Black Man Jackson, why are you sitting down? Twisted my ankle, Old Lord, Ben said. Lord kicked the sides of his horse and steered it over. I walked away, wanting no part of whatever was about to happen. Ah, yeah, say you twisted your ankle, the old man asked. Yes, sir. Real sorry to be sitting down, sir. I just need a minute's rest. Old Lord seemed to consider him for a moment. Ah, let's see your ankle, black man. Ben thrust his ankle out. It was swollen and red. Old Lord took a drink of water and spat it onto Ben's ankle. By the power of my father, you is healed. Now, go forth and chop that brush before I shoot your ankle. Yes, sir, Ben said. Thank you, sir. He jammed his machete into the ground, used it to push himself up, and hobbled off. Knowing Ben would need help, he stuck by him and picked up his slack. About half an hour later, I was cutting down a cluster of tall weeds when I heard excited talking up ahead. I went over to see what it was. Found a group of men standing around in a circle. Johnny Armstrong rubbed the back of his neck, and Lion Willie was talking a mile a minute. See, man, I told you.
Our
I
sniper's
told you,
up.
man.
Someone wants to grab
Came out of the
Travis.
sky. Yeah, what's going on? I asked. The men parted, and I saw what they were looking at. It took me a minute to process what I was
Get out
seeing.
of the rocket. He's coming in.
Curved stone disc jutted out of the ground. The grass around it was charred and burned, and a long scar marked the topsoil, lending the impression that the disc had slashed across the earth before reaching its current
there's a
position.
whole fucking team of them coming from.
There was strange writing
Over there.
engraved around the disc's rim. And when I knelt down, I noticed a crude drawing of an elongated face. Without warning, it began to glow a sickly shade of green. And I scrambled back with a shocked cry. Everyone else backed away, and Lion Willie tripped over his own feet, landing hard on his butt before scuttling backward like a crab. I can't explain it. But as soon as the disc began to glow, a strange and powerful energy filled
Just
the
gets out the
clearing.
rockets.
If you ever put two magnets together
Over
and
by
felt the pressure
wreckage.
between them, it was like that. My fillings ached in my jaw and my eardrums began to vibrate. Just as soon as it started, it was over. The thing continued to glow, but the tension was gone as surely as if it had never been there at all. Hey, why aren't you all working? Oh, Lord called. Get to moving. This brush ain't gonna clear itself. No one spoke. No one could speak. Finding my voice eventually, I yelled over my shoulder. We found something. What is it? I don't know, I said, and fixed the thing with a wary
Watch out, here
glare.
they come.
Oh Lord moseyed over and jumped off of his horse. Shotgun in hand, he bullied his way through the crowd, which had grown. He walks up.
That overshield guy.
You black man better found something gold to be jerking off like this. You're about as bad as them other squads now. He looked around, saw the disc, and narrowed his eyes. What's that? I don't know,
Is there
I
somebody
said
up
and got
there?
to my feet. But I don't like it.
Happy that you keep shooting over there?
Oh Lord, knelt stiffly down and examined
You
it.
just having fun.
He reached out gingerly and touched it, and then whipped his hand back with a hiss. God damn, he said. Son of a bitch shocked me. An eerie silence settled over the clearing, and an inexplicable chill raced up my spine. What is it, oh Lord? One of the men asked. Old Lord got to his feet. I don't know, he said. A sly grin spread across his face. But we all gonna be rich. But I had a bad feeling. A bad feeling. Part 2.
Oh, whoa.
Old Lord called Cat on the walkie-talkie. Cat came out in his personal car. The other field bosses and some of their co-workers had gathered around to see what all of the fuss was about. The guys in my squad talked among themselves, trying to figure out what the disc was and where it had come from. Suddenly, guys who waved Lion Willie off were listening to him, and everyone was starting to share my unease. Cat put his hands on his hips and stood over the thing with a critical look. Old Lord told him what had happened. Cat listened intently. "Well, dig it up," he finally said. One of the water boys fetched a couple of shovels and brought them back.
Oh, there's a guy with an
Me,
overshield.
Johnny Armstrong,
over
a big
here.
country
Just
boy
knocked it
from
out.
one of the white squads,
You'll
dug the
laugh
disc
at
out of
that.
the ground,
Easy over here.
being careful not to damage it. Maybe it was my imagination, but I could feel waves of dark energy rising from it like heat from a fevered body.
Where'd that
Halfway
kid go?
through, the white boy started to
Come
go
on, Devin
grey.
Khan.
Sweat poured from him,
He's over there.
slimy rivulets, and he had to stop and catch his breath. My heart was slamming wildly against my ribs, and Johnny Armstrong's face had settled into an uncharacteristically angry scowl. It took 5 of us to drag the disc out of its hole
where'd
and
that
lay it
guy
on the
went?
ground. Roughly 2 feet by 2 feet with a red orb in its center.
Oh, fuck.
The orb caught and refracted the sunlight. I made the mistake of looking into it, and it stung my eyes. Hey,
Where's the guy
careful.
with the flag,
Cat
bro?
warned.
Oh, there he
He
is.
set it down, and Cat touched it with his bare foot.
He dead now.
A piece came off and crumbled into a dozen chunks. "Shit," he said. "I barely touched it." "What do you want to do with it?" Captain Farris asked. "Load it in one of the trucks," Cat said after a minute. "We'll send a piece of it to the college and find out what it is, I guess." "It's Martians," Lion Willie said. "I seen them myself, Cat. They came out of the sky. I thought we were getting nuked by the Russians." "Does this look like Martians to you, Willie?" Cat asked, and nodded to the disc. "You're right that it came from space, though. Hell, maybe it does have something to do with aliens." He jerked his chin toward where the trucks that had brought us out to the fields were parked. "Load her up and be careful. This damn thing might be worth millions." Me, Johnny Armstrong, the white boy, and 3 others picked the disc up and shuffled toward the trucks. It was far heavier than it had any right to be, and our hands tingled.
So there's a guy with an
We
overshield.
loaded it into the bed of
Here.
one of the trucks, and I instantly blotted my palms on my legs and my pants. "I don't like that thing," I said as the truck drove off in a cloud of dust. "Yeah, felt slimy," Johnny Armstrong said. Shook his head and rubbed the back of his neck. "What is it?" Hell if I knew. It looked like one of
They
those
tried
ancient
so
Mayan
hard.
statues in a book on early civilizations I once read. I don't know enough about that kind of thing to say one way or another.
Aw, I killed him.
The writing on it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. The face. There was something about it, something monstrous, otherworldly. All right.
There's a guy
Oh,
with
Lord,
a sniper coming down this
You
way.
lazy son of bitches, get to moving.
Beacon
For once, I was grateful for the distraction of hard manual labor. With the disc out of sight and out of mind, I turned my thoughts to Cat's offer. I was pretty sure he had ulterior motives for me, making me a cowboy. And so what? I'd already begun to figure out that standing on your principles wasn't always the right thing to do. And in prison, it's do or die. The biggest rule is, look out for yourself. What would be best for me? Working in these fields or working for Cat? I once told myself
guy
I'd
not
never
dead,
give in to
though?
the man, but sometimes the man is the better option. Why else do you think so many people cave in and work for you? I'd never be an inmate guard, so I didn't have it in me to just dry fuck someone over. But I didn't have to do all that as a cowboy. And if Cat asked me to, I'd just say no.
Guy going beneath our
Still
flag.
turning this proposition over in my mind when we quit for the day. The field bosses loaded us up in the trucks and sent us back to the building. As soon as I'd been patted down, I went back to my cell. Grabbed my books and hurried to my class, still wearing my dirty clothes. There were 3 other men in there, and we were silent as the instructor guided us through the day's work. An inmate guard was positioned outside the door in case something went down. No one was willing to break the no-talking rule and earn himself
White
an
coat
ass.
driver.
After class, I showered and went into the day room of the main hall. A bunch of guys sat around watching a football game on TV. Someone had made a spread, a combination of different things from the commissary,
That
like
guy's
roast
almost
beef
dead,
and
isn't
canned
he?
chilies.
Rocket hog.
Everyone had a cup of homemade wine.
I don't know how the fuck he's made it this
Didn't have
far.
any homework that day, so I planned to hang out for a
We're
little.
now in overtime.
That wound up not happening.
Spartan.
No sooner had my butt touched the chair than 2 guys went to fighting. Don't know what it was about, but they punched and stomped
I love
each
when
other
they
like
run away
mortal
like
enemies.
little pussy-ass bitches, bro.
Inmate guards gathered around to watch. The rest of us tried to ignore them. In prison, if you look at a fight, you must want to be
Nice kill,
involved.
Shadow Blaze.
The building tenders laughed and joked like it was a game. At the moment one guy speared the other into the wall, putting a large crack in it, things changed. They rushed in, pulled them apart, and started beating their asses. "Look what you did," one of the building tenders said, and forced one of the guys to look at his handiwork. "Can't have shit with you all broke asses around." After beating the guys to a pulp, the building tenders sat them back to their cells like some naughty kids, and I decided to go
Absolute
ahead
fucking
and turn in
nonsense
myself.
shit right there, buddy.
At that point, I had a cell by myself so I could go right to sleep
Poor
without
bunk
worrying
is
about
almost
someone waking me up. Stretched out in my bunk and dropped off in less than 2 minutes. In my dreams, I was standing in the clearing where we'd found the disc, only it was different. The brush was black and charred like old bones, and the sky was the
I killed
color
the
of
kid with
blood.
the sword.
A hollow, eerie wind swept the sheets of reddish topsoil over me in waves.
Oh,
The
that
back of
dude
my
tried
neck
to make fun
tingled
of
as
me
if in
earlier
expectation
today.
of a blow.
Returns their flag.
I turned
Of
around.
course, he's below me
There was
in this
nothing.
game, too.
No one. I was totally alone. I don't know how I knew this, but I was the only person for 1,000 miles, maybe more. Suddenly the brush began to shake and stir with unseen life. Blood pounded in my temples, and sharp fear squeezed my chest. Beneath the wind I could make out a faint but persistent chattering. And I was crazily convinced that if I listened carefully enough, I'd be able to make out words.
Rockets behind us.
Tried to wrench myself free of the dark spell
Thank
that
God.
descended over me.
Flag.
My feet were rooted in place.
Be cautious.
It was then that I saw the eye. They watched me from the brush. First 1 set, then 2, and then 10. All green and black with elongated pupils like those of a snake. The strongest sense of dread I'd ever known came over me then. It was like pins and needles. When the ice started to come from me, I screamed. I jerked up in bed, covered in cold sweat, and sucked in great gulps. of
Okay,
air.
I just shot 2 fucking
The
rockets.
cell
at
block
that
was
thing
dark
and
and
nothing
silent, and
happened,
for a
bro.
minute
What
danger
is
was all
going on?
around me. Pressed my hand to my fevered forehead, took a series of deep, calming breaths. I couldn't get back to sleep, so I got up and paced around, finally ending up at the window.
Let's go. Score
Beyond the
that
towers
point,
and
guys.
razor wire, beyond the flat, endless
Let's go,
expanse of
let's go.
fields, the sun was just beginning to peak over the horizon. The sky around it, a stirring shade of pink.
Nice.
Not long thereafter,
G
the
fucking
lights went
G,
on and
boy.
the building tender came around to wake everyone up. I dressed in a fresh uniform and put my boots on. I left my cell, which the building tender had unlocked, and went into the day room. What I saw froze my blood. On a table beneath a window, placed like a trophy in a position of honor, was a chunk of glowing stone. It emanated a sickly green light that pulsed and throbbed like a beating heart, and the air around it seemed to crackle with electricity. A few convicts stood around it, scratching the backs of their heads and talking in low, subdued voices. Johnny Armstrong sat in a chair across the room, staring at it with the same angry expression I'd seen in the fields. Tony Jackson, a hell of a card player in for robbery, sat beside him and talked about the game of knock he'd won the night before. But Johnny made no sign that he'd heard, or that he was even aware of his friend's presence. "What's that thing doing in here?" I asked. My voice trembled slightly as I swallowed hard, as if by doing so I could take back my evident unease. One of the building tenders told me that the stone fell apart when they tried to unload it from the truck. Cat, thinking they'd found something monumentous, ordered that each cell block get a piece. Well, how generous of him. I know it sounds crazy, but I had the strangest feeling that the stone was watching me, like it knew I was there. "Oh, never seen anything like it," Mr. Forbes said. An older man with clusters of grey hair at the temples, Mr. Forbes had been at Anderson since 1956. He was a college professor before killing his wife, and the wisest man I knew. He could speak 3 languages, solve complicated mathematical problems without using paper, and knew everything there was to know about prison life. A lot of guys called him Pops, because he was like a father to us younger inmates. But but I called him Mr. Forbes out of respect.